got another fantastic piece from The Intercept's Glenn Greenwald and Lee Fong, of course, that shows that the Clinton campaign has a rather close relationship with the press. And it breaks down how this actually works. So I'm going to break it down for you. Now, there were emails that provided to The Intercept from Guccifer 2.0. Now, in these emails, they demonstrate how the Clinton campaign, how their strategy is ensuring that journalists that they believe are friendly to the Clinton campaign are going to report stories that the campaign wants them to report. Essentially, it's like Pravda, right? Hey, we want a story out there that makes us look good. We're going to go to our friendly journalists in the media, journalists, and we're going to say, hey, push this story, right? We want a story run. We talk to our friends. They run it. Now, at times, they write, campaign staff has not only internally drafted the stories they want to publish, but even specified what should be quoted on background and what should be described as on the record. So that's kind of how they do this. Hey, we want this on the record. We don't want it on the record. Say this. And look, not all the journalists do this, right? But there are some journalists that they can approach that they can do this to. And these journalists will say, okay, yeah, no problem. We can do this. Now, I have some examples here. Now, one January 2015 strategy document designed to plant stories on Clinton's decision-making process about whether or not she's going to run for president. So this is way back before the campaign even started. They singled out a reporter named Maggie Haberman. Now, Maggie Haberman, at the time, was working for Politico. Now she covers the election as for the New York Times. Now, the Clinton campaign singled her out as being a friendly journalist who has, quote, teed up stories for them in the past and never disappointed them. Now, I have a memo here from Nick Merrill, who is a campaign press secretary, and I want to read this to you. Now, it says, placing a story. As discussed in our call, we are all in agreement that the time is right. Place a story with a friendly journalist in the coming days that positions us a little more transparently while achieving the above goals. Okay. The memo continues. Who? For something like this, especially in the absence of us teasing things out to others, we feel that it's important to go with what is safe and what has worked in the past, into a publication that will reach industry people for recruitment purposes. Great. Now, they point out, as I mentioned, Maggie Haberman. We have had a very good relationship with Maggie Haberman and Politico over the last year. We have had her tee up stories for us and have never been disappointed. While we should have a larger conversation in the near future about a broader strategy for re-engaging the beat press, we think we can achieve our objective and do the most shaping by going to Maggie. And this has to do with shaping the narrative for the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, how did that turn out? Well, you won't be surprised to see that the following month, when she was at the New York Times, Haberman published 2 stories on Clinton's vetting process. Now, in this instance, Haberman's stories, to her credit, were more sophisticated, nuanced, and even somewhat more critical than what the Clinton memo had envisioned. Nonetheless, it did its job. It accomplished the goal that the Clinton campaign's aides wanted to fill of casting the appearance of transparency on Hillary Clinton's vetting process in a way that made it clear that she was moving carefully towards a presidential run. Now, Haberman isn't the only one. And as I said, to her credit, she wrote the story and it was much more critical than the aides wanted. Okay, but it still achieved that goal. Now, other documents listed, whom the campaign regarded as reliable surrogates, such as CNN's Hillary Rosen and Donna Brazile. Now, Donna Brazile, in some of the more recent emails, was there giving tips to the Clinton campaign from CNN. Remember, she worked for CNN, and she was giving Hillary Clinton tips. Hey, here's the question that they're going to ask. You got to answer it in a better way. Now, even with that tip-off, she still did horribly on that answer in one of the town halls. But nonetheless, this is Donna Brazil feeding them information. Friendly journalist and surrogate, very reliable surrogate. Now, not only did it have them two, it also had Center for American Progress President Neera Tanden. And Neera Tanden, we did a story on yesterday. The Center for American Progress, headed by her, is more of a Clinton defense network now than an actual progressive think tank or a progressive organization. Because Neera Tanden pushed against a $15 minimum wage. And she describes herself as a loyal soldier for Hillary Clinton. Great. Now, this memo also, or these other documents also listed operatives whom they believed were either good progressive helpers, such as those three I just mentioned, or more potentially friendly media figures who might be worth targeting with messaging. Now, who wrote these documents? The metadata suggests that the file was authored by Jennifer Palmieri, who is the communications director for the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, it's important to note, as The Intercept also previously reported, that there are pundits that were regularly featured on cable news programs that were paid by the Clinton campaign without any disclosure when they appeared. Now, I'm going to read off a list of some of these people. And look, I don't know who's actually getting money. It doesn't say. But some of these people might actually have been paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign to be on television without disclosure. Now, here's the list. First, we'll start with progressive helpers, which none of you are going to be surprised at the names that I read off. David Brock. That's pretty obvious. Correct the Record. Obvious. Mo Ellery and Judd Legum. Now, who are these friendly journalists? These friendly media pundits they could go to push a message? Well, some of them are Dan Balls, Wolf Blitzer, Mika Brzezinski, David Brooks, John Dickerson, Maureen Dowd, Ronan Farrow, Howard Feynman, Mark Halperin, Chris Hayes, John Heilman, Jonathan Carl, John King, Rachel Maddow, Ruth Marcus, Chris Matthews, who, by the way, gets a thrill up his leg every time he talks to Hillary Clinton, Dana Milbank, Andrea Mitchell, Nora O'Donnell, Eugene Robinson, Charlie Rose, George Stephanopoulos, Karen Tumulty, and Jeff Zeleny, and there are many others. Now, I have to note that not all of these journalists are friendly. Remember, this is who the campaign thinks could be friendly enough to push a message to Hillary Clinton or for Hillary Clinton. Now, in the case of Mika Brzezinski, for example, she's not exactly pushing a pro-Clinton message. Okay, she's been pushing a very anti-Clinton and in some cases very anti-Donald Trump message. They're kind of all over the place. The cast of Morning Joe. So just because they're on this list doesn't mean that they're complicit with the Clinton campaign. It also doesn't mean that they're bad journalists. Some certainly are. Some certainly might not be. So this list, all it does is outline people who the Clinton campaign thinks they could approach. So let's be fair. Now, why did they think that they could approach these media figures with impunity to ask them to push a message? Well, it has to do with glitzy cocktail parties. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Some of these memos show this. Now, one of them is described in an April 2015 memo. And it was produced by Deputy Press Secretary Jesse Ferguson. And it describes an event in April 10th. It was a cocktail party for leading news figures and top-level Clinton staff at the Upper East Side home of Clinton strategist Joel Benison. Now, what's important to note is that this is a fully off-the-record gathering. So it doesn't exist, essentially. Now, I'm going to read this memo. And it states, this is an off-the-record dinner with the key national reporters, especially, though not exclusively, those that are based in New York. Much of the group includes influential reporters, anchors, and editors. Now, the goals of this dinner include, number one, give reporters their first thoughts from Team Hillary Clinton in advance of the announcement. Now, that would be the announcement of her candidacy. Number two, setting expectations for the announcement and launch period. Number three, which is what I have a big issue with, framing the HRC message and framing the race. Now, there was a separate email chain between Clinton staff, one that was not provided among the DC leaks. The Guccifer leaks, but actually appeared on DCleaks.com, contains plan for a separate off-the-record media get-together in May. Food and drinks are provided by the campaign for the journalists covering it on the condition that you shut your mouth. Basically, if you come to this, we're going to give you free food, free drinks. We're going to get to know you. We're going to hobnob a little bit. And, we're going to talk, get to know each other. But you can't talk about it. A little shady. And the fact is that what it seems to me is they were attempting to buy off these journalists with free food. Wow. Now, the whole point of these little parties is to get close to the media so they can get this framing from the Clinton campaign and basically get to know each other and get close. If you're close with somebody, if you're friends with somebody, you're less likely to ask them hard questions. And so that's why they do these things. Now, there's another memo from the Clinton campaign, and this is from manager Robbie Mook, that provides some of the insight into some tactics employed by the campaign to help shape their coverage to their liking. In particular, Mook was concerned that because journalists were assigned to cover Hillary Clinton, they needed to be fed a constant stream of stories that were campaign approved, that the campaign actually liked. As he put it, a key strategy was to, quote, give reporters who must cover daily HRC news something to cover other than the unhelpful stories about the foundation, about the emails, etc. Now look, from a campaign standpoint, this actually makes sense. Hey, let's give these reporters some positive stories so they don't focus on the negative stories. Okay. However, that seems to be a problem. Yes, you can cover positive stories, but you also need to cover negative stories that are true. And that's what journalism is. Journalism is about muckraking. If you're only doing positive stories about a candidate, then you're not doing journalism, you're doing PR. So, and that's a big problem. But see, this is what illustrates the problem with the media at large. They are too close to the politicians. See, they are supposed to critique the politicians. Instead, they're doing PR. They're essentially lapdogs when they're supposed to be watchdogs. And I'm not saying that all the media is like this, but certainly a lot of it seems to be. And it's not the fault entirely of the people on it. It's not that, Maggie Haberman's a terrible person. It's not like Chris Hayes is a terrible person, that doesn't care about journalism. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is the system that we have for media in America, the fourth estate, is broken. It's set up to incentivize access over reporting. Now, how do you get access? Well, you do positive stories. Now, back when there were 3 news channels that you could go to as a politician to get on television, well, these news reporters, they could ask all the tough questions they got, because where else are they going to go? Now, with so much media everywhere, politicians can pick and choose. And if you give me a hard question as a politician that I don't want to answer, I'm not going to come back to your show. And that's just a reality of the media. And of course, with corporate media working the way that it does, you want that access because that access gives you ratings and it gives you money. And it makes your campaign through Citizens United want to spend more of that super PAC money trying to buy airtime on your networks. That's the problem with the media. It's not that these people are bad people. It's not that they're not trying to do a good job. Some, of course, might not actually care about giving both sides of the facts. And look, we know that, right? We've seen examples of that all over this election cycle and what the media chooses to cover and what they choose not to cover. But to blame just them, I think is wrong. You've got to blame the system of corporate news and the system of access. Those are the things you really have to fix if you want to fix the system. And these emails, they show how the game is really played. We've got to change the media. We've got to show people that you have to do real journalism, and you have to make it so that these politicians can't just give money in their super PACs to these networks and then have them play ball. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.